Everybody, good morning. Morning, good morning, good morning. How's it going? Oh, something got me a little bit. Got my nose running, but I'm here. It is Memorial Day. Remember those who fought and died to make United States what it is. And crypto's open. The futures are open actually. Futures opened up last night. Go pop over. Look at our normal. Look at this ES candle right here. Thing rocking and rolling. Look at this reopen right here. Ripping, baby. Beautiful. We'll talk more about that tomorrow, but right now, it's a three-wave move hitting its head right at the limit there. That's a sign of rolling back over. Be freaking careful here. Be careful. Starting to look a little bit like this goes on down. We got a 1, 2, 3, 4. Really deep 4, but 5 can put us right down there. Five, and then we'll probably do another one right up here. So we maybe look at a chop for a couple days in the market if this rolls on down. If we get another flush right there, see another three-wave up somewhere in this vicinity where that is happening, if this is the way it goes, and then bigger down. So the thing is, this could be an A wave or a wave 1. I don't know which one. Could be an A, could be a 1. Not sure what that might be if we do that. If it's a wave 1, things are going to get wild on the downside. If it's a A wave, we'll probably get that B wave, and then we'll get a wild C wave. So either way, probably not done on the downside yet. Now, the odds that that's a 4 flip around if we breach that level right there. 5906. Now we can get some overlap, but we don't want to see a lot of overlap. So that's what we got on ES cooking now. That if anybody looked at the futures and saw the healthy restarts, up 69 points so far. That's what we got cooking. We're banging it. I mean, we're banging that resistance right there overnight. So that was the reopen last night. If you didn't know, futures trade 24/7 or 23, I guess 23/6 really. 23 hours a day, 6 days a week. Basically close Saturday. That's about it. Reopen on Sunday and go till Friday. I think we have an early close at 1 o'clock today and then reopen at 6 o'clock as per normal. So that's what we got cooking on futures. Back to cryptos. Bitcoin's been hitting all-time highs. It's been pretty interesting here. Last 7 days up about 7%, which is a little spicier than what I had yesterday when I did my crypto update. Not bad. Not bad at all. We're seeing Ethereum lagging behind. Tether, of course, doesn't move. XRP lagging way behind. BNB, that one's looking like it's set to break out to new all-time highs. Solana making a healthy move here, stronger than Bitcoin or Ethereum. Can it take the place? That's a big ask right there. Can it catch up? This is big numbers. That's thousands, millions, billions. So that's $92 billion. This is $2 trillion. Now, can Solana catch up? That's a lot of multiples to get anywhere near there. Now, it's a multiple of about 3 to catch up to Ethereum right there. Just a little more than 3. Very close to BNB, $94 billion. XRP, $137 billion. It's like, can XRP 10x? Unlikely. Can it double? Sure. Could it 3x? Maybe. So, what side am I looking at? It's CoinMarketCap right here. It's a handy dandy place to look at all the coins. I typically like to stay in the top 10, but I do have some on down here because, well, the top 10 keeps changing around. And one that's been particularly interesting lately, this one right here. It's one of the only truly anonymous cryptos out there. And most of these, when you hold crypto in your wallet, everybody can see your wallet. This one, everything's encrypted. You can't actually see who has how much and where it goes. You don't see the transactions are all encrypted. So while the chain itself is secure, and due to that fact that it's untrackable, you won't find it on most exchanges. At least not the ones available in the United States. You can click on a crypto and come down in here and see where it's available. You see it's available KuCoin, Kraken, Bitfinex, but we don't see Coinbase. We don't really see Binance. So you have to go trade this one somewhere else if you want a piece of it. So it's pretty interesting. Look at the XMR chart. Monero. Jumping up to the daily. Look at this baby. That's pretty bullish. Actually, looks like we're gunning for the breakout. How high? Probably 600, maybe even 800 up here. It's just a standard pattern we always follow right here. It's one of the strongest looking cryptos that is kind of completely decoupled from the rest of the crypto market. So that high. We may actually come up, make a new high. That would fit right in that. Popped right up in there. It's possible we going up higher, but unlikely. You know, what's possible and what's probable. It's not very probable, but it is possible that we break out and actually make a big run higher. Like I said, obtaining some Monero, not the easiest thing to do. But what's funny is a lot of my crypto mining rigs have switched over to mining Monero. So it's very popular right now in the mining space. And that may be what we're seeing here. Another one that's been pretty popular in the mining space is Cospa. This one's definitely not in the top 10. As you can see, this one's not got that big pullback. It's kind of ramped up and pulled back just a little bit off of that high. But it's consolidating once again. A little bit of trouble getting through that 618 level right here. If and when we do, probably popping on up here. 25 cents right there. That's been really popular with the miners. Also, let's look at total. This is total market cap of crypto right here. Now, while Bitcoin broke out to a new high, we have not seen total breaking out to new highs. I find that a little interesting. The enthusiasm just not there yet, I guess you might say. Now, we saw this pull back here. This was last year. And we saw an extension of the 1618 right there. Then we got another pullback, very proportional, very much an echo right there. I mean, look at that, almost perfect echo in the market. So you could almost expect the same kind of move coming back out of that once again, which is probably going to put it up to about a 1618 yet again. We do the high, we do the low. Yeah, almost a 1618. So we can see crypto easily up to $5.1 trillion as a whole. Now, if you take out Bitcoin, you go to total 2, where we start seeing some differences here. That's not really breaking out in a big way in like we see on total. That's still kind of consolidating down here in this no man's land, if you will. $1.8, 1.9. That looks more likely to be the upside here. Do that pullback. We did get just past the 1272. So if you kind of do the math on this, that's 1.96. We were just looking at this one. We were talking 5.17. So grab my handy dandy calculator. 5.17 minus 1.96. $3.21 trillion just in Bitcoin. $3.21 trillion right there for Bitcoin. Let's kind of, we jump over and look at that. We're at 2.1, so 50% higher, roughly. 109, so we're talking 50, yeah, basically 55,000 higher. So 109 plus 55, 164. Well, that sounds a lot like the number I've been talking about. Right up here. Right in the spot. 164 right there at the bottom of the target. Nice. I like it when the different math works different ways. Another interesting one. Bitcoin gold ratio. We've kind of had a pretty solid top, even though it's Bitcoin's ripping new all-time highs here. We've had a pretty solid top at 37 ounces of gold per Bitcoin. Still lagging down here. Gold, if you didn't know, has been ripping lately. We're consolidating, and this looks like a lot like the total 2 chart right here. So if this can break out, we can see this ramp right on up here, possibly 42, possibly 45, possibly 53. And then looking at the bigger pullback that we did in the last crypto winter, you can see this 54, that corresponds, and then 88 up here also corresponds. So we could see it pop on up here and possibly go for that confluence of fibs way up there. Now, what could cause that? Gold pulling back, Bitcoin extending, or both. So the price of gold dropping, and gold dropping can make this pop. Bitcoin climbing makes this pop. Both of them doing it at the same time really makes it really get exciting. So, which crypto chart available in U.S. exchange looks most profitable? Yeah, that's up to you. That's crypto is one of those things. Like, it's a brand new asset, and a lot of people have. I'm just gonna buy and I'm gonna hold it, and you don't have a plan at all. You've heard, one of those. You get so excited, you hear about You start dreaming about the money, and you buy some stuff. You're like, all right, let's dream about the money. And usually when you start dreaming about the money, that's when it's all over. So we have lots of opportunity for things to outperform this cycle. And my crypto power plays product, I do go through all of these charts, and I did put that out yesterday. So if you're interested in that full update, that's where you get that. And for my Termite Trading Lab members, you have access to that in Discord. And you should have access to it in the members area. I'm not here to sell it, access to it. So, and my publisher's closed today. So it's kind of one of those things, like, I'm not here really to sell anything. Just kind of going through the crypto market. Now, Ethereum, let's pull up this one right here. This one's got me concerned because we made the highest high here. We have not made, it's not really been much attempt to break out here. This looks a lot like a first move down, like an A. This looks like a sloppy B. It's like an A. And then this potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could see a C wave down. If you have exposure to Ethereum and we start breaking down again, it may be game over. This is a classic proportion for a 1, 2 to the downside. I would be remiss if I did not warn you that this potential exists in this chart. Something like that. Lots of people are expecting this to come back out of the ashes, go break out to new highs. While that is possible, this setup is in the chart. Right there. And we're finding lots and lots of resistance right there. So it's one of those where if we break back below a 618 here, game on. It's my same market roadmap pattern right here. Look, we reverse trend, came back, testing the roadmap line. We break below the 618. It's just the roadmap pattern upside down that I talk about all the time. Right there, we break below that. Sets up the odds. We're coming down here. Usually on wave 3s, we get the 618 extension. Wave 4, probably retest here. And then wave 5, get some continuation. Now, since that's also a measured bounce, line this up. 1, 2, 3. Remove this one. As you can see, we could make it all the way down to 425 or 452 here. With we could get real spicy. At downside, that could be pretty destructive to Ethereum. Could make it all the way down here to 217. So, throwing the caution flag out there, that is a very bearish pattern that we have potential on Ethereum. Lots of, you go read Twitter or crypto tweets or whatever it was. You have stock twits, and then now they have crypto twits. You go read that stuff. People will be hyping that to death. But this chart also, Ethereum Classic, looks pretty much done. That was the lowest low right there, and we can easily extend this on lower. A lot of damage has been done to a lot of these altcoin charts that have been around for at least the last couple cycles. And I've kind of thrown it out there a couple times that maybe it's possible that this cycle, we don't have an altcoin cycle. We don't have this like altcoin season that really spikes it, really gets spicy and resurrects a lot of these altcoins. Because look at this crazy number right here. This went up 100,000 coins since yesterday. 16.13 million coins. That's how many cryptos are out there. What the devil do we use 16 million cryptos? I mean, soon we're going to have a crypto for every person on earth, I think. And the majority of the money is right here. I mean, that's almost 10 times bigger than then the number 2 right there. This one has limited supply. This one has unlimited supply. It's supply and demand. Right? When you have a limited supply, it's almost all out there. It's up to the market dynamics. When you have something like XRP that has almost 50% or 40% of the supply still left not out there, that's inflationary and causes the price to decline as more of it comes onto the market. Immediately, well, they don't plan on putting it out there. Any of these that don't have a cap supply, they're inflationary. That's why Tether rocks and rolls with the US dollar. It's pinned to the dollar. USDC rocks and rolls pinned to the dollar. All these ones that have unlimited supply, not really giant upside future. And these ones like Hype right here, where you've only got a small portion of it out in the market. SUI, small portion of it out in the market. That's not, it's not very supportive of high prices if somebody wants to start unloading. Even Avalanche, like 58% of the supply, Stellar Lumens. Now this one's seen giant multi-1,000% runs every time we've had a Bitcoin run. It may do it again. But again, the supply, only 62% of the supply out there. And SHIB, 99.95% of the supply. That's a big difference between SHIB and Doge. SHIB actually limited their supply. But, 0.000, 4 zeros and a 1 4. Not looking very promising. Bitcoin Cash is a fork off of Bitcoin. That one seems to be running well behind Bitcoin. Bitcoin up here, all-time high. This one consolidating down here at a point that looks very similar to Ethereum, where we may see this flush on down. Now it has the potential setup to break up and retest this 618, but it's got to do a lot of work. Much closer to this being a corrective and getting further downside. So I'd love to be all rosy on a lot of the crypto, but there's a lot of damage that's been done in the crypto market. A lot of damage. And like I said, it may never really come back. It's funny, this one has a limited supply, but it doesn't have the bar that shows it's all out there. This one's all out there. It's a complete joke like this, but somehow a complete joke is worth $5.8 billion. It has a spicy potential upside here. Trying to poke through that 618 if we can do it. Right up in here. The targets, you can see I've already got alerts hanging out up here. Already got one there, right on the 1448. Got one right here, looking for that breakouts. I have about 100 million of these from back over here somewhere. Not a ton of money, but so you want to gamble on something, you find one you believe the chart, whether it's XMR, USD. Put a reasonable bet on it that you can watch burn. This is what I always say. Any money you're going to put in crypto, be willing to take that money out back, put it in your fire pit, and light it on fire, because that's basically what the crypto market can do to your money. Lots of stuff down in here. Looks pretty freaking bad. It's like everybody wants to talk about Trump coin. That one got crushed, right? Lowest low. So you can't really look at anything over here. It doesn't really matter. Coming off that low, we've got to move up, a retrace, move up, retrace, move up. That's potential 5 up. And a retrace right here. Potential 5 up. 50% retrace. That's a potential 1, 2. Measured bounce. This is starting to look interesting. But we're not talking crazy big numbers here. We're only talking about maybe up here in the 20 to 30. That's like a double maybe, a little more. And from this current level, and that's potentially 1, 2, 1, 2. So conservative wise, 127%, maybe, a little more than a double. That's not like 1,000%. So you got to be careful, like where you place your bet. Another one that looks reasonable to break out. Still working on it here, though. We did make a higher high. Right back here. So unlike Ethereum, this did a breakout higher like Bitcoin. But unlike Bitcoin right now, this one's still sitting down here. And it's not, Bitcoin's up here. This one's down here. Sitting under that 618. If we could get through that danger zone, potential for this one to come on up to like 346. Roughly, see, that's only about 100%. That's almost about a double. So we're not talking about giant multi-1,000% returns here. Like even Bitcoin, a lot of people are like, well, I thought you were talking about like there's giant upside potential. Yeah, we had giant upside potential back here when we were at 15. When we were at 15 and we started the upside potential, we look at it right now, we're at 109. That's 600% upside. And if we go on up to the targets, 150, 160, like I've been talking about, that was 1,000% upside. But if you're late to the party and you're just now getting in, our upside's limited, like 50% upside. And 50, 56% upside. Definitely got to be careful. We're nearer the end of this party than we are the beginning. The beginning was back here, and if you were like, I wasn't touching it back there, that's the whole point. Like, you got to have the ability to buy when others are fearful and then sell when others are being greedy. Like when everybody's talking about how Bitcoin's going to rock and roll and go to, $1 million a coin because we've gotten 170. Watch out. I don't think this cycle is any different. We're going to get another crypto winter. It's going to pull back just like it has every other time in the past. This is one of those things that's going to happen. This is the all-time history. We could be talking about 70% pullback, 80% pullback. We could be talking about back into the 30,000s, 30, 40,000. So this is one of those, it's probably going to happen. Like we're probably going to top out sometime by October this year. It's kind of my timeline I've been looking at. Right in here. September, October. Right in that time frame. And then we're going to start the crypto winter. It's going to last well into next year. Probably somewhere, we bottomed out in November 22. So somewhere between maybe about a year after we top. So if we top in October, be about October next year. If we top in September, probably September next year when we look for a bottom. Maybe why are you so bearish on crypto? It's just the cycle. All right, this is the cycle. We've seen this happen over and over. There's no reason to believe that this time's any different than any time before. Let me show you what I mean. Let's take a trip back. all the way back. Now, here's when Bitcoin came out. Here's where it kind of came onto the market. And we got this first big super excitement. You know, the Genesis. This is the first real excitement. We went up to about 32. And then we did a big pullback. That one, a little bigger, about 90% right there. Everybody said it was dead. Party's over. Great. That was like tulips. Blah, blah, blah. High to low. Draw the fib. And then something happened. We had a halving event. 4 years later. And then we got another run higher. It was kind of crazy. Oops. I flipped it back to current time. So there was the first pop, retrace, and then we got some exponential stuff. First pop, the retrace, exponential stuff. Put it on the log mode. When we operate in log mode, there's that 90% pullback. Made a bottom. That bottom just happened to be right around November. That one went a little bit faster. Then we ramped up, hit a 1618. Ramped her on up after retracing. You know, look, this looks a lot like the pattern I follow all the time, right? Just move up, resistance at the 618. We busted through. Didn't even stop at these. I mean, we had like a couple days here. Ramped on up, hit that 1618, retraced back down, tested the 1272 a couple times. Ramped on up to the 272. And that was our top this cycle. Looking at it here. This pullback, that high, this low, 87%. Slightly less than a 93 we got the time before. Everybody said it was dead. News is out, blah, 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 blah. Big retrace. Another halving event took place. 2016. It's actually somewhere right out here. We bought them before the halving event. All right, we always do. Then we run into the halving event, and then we get the big pop after the halving event. What's halving? It's where the payout for miners mining Bitcoin, their payout gets cut in half. This one, no different. Like we struggled at the 618 level again, popped up, struggle at that 1272, struggle at that 1618, and then hit the 272 level once again. It's pretty interesting. Now, move forward. It's more modern times here, especially for Bitcoin. Right there's the pullback. 83% again. How many times does this make we've done this? 3 times in a row. Big exponential move. Big crazy retrace. This is the cycle that happens, all right? We had our halving event right over here in 2020. Everybody's like, oh, this cycle was just COVID being crazy. But look at this. We moved up. Found resistance at that 618. That one reacted a little more negative. Nice deep retrace. Came back up through. Right up to the 1272. 1618. And uh-oh. That one didn't make it to the 272. That move stopped at the 1618. right there. Couldn't extend it on up here this cycle. And then pull back again. Once again. This is crypto winner right here. Pulled back down to 15,000. Little slightly less than 80% that time, about 77%. Seen this play out every time before. Run the fib from the high to the low. Come up. We struggled at the 618. Popped up. Struggled at the prior high. And now, here we go. We hit the 1272. Retraced back down. Retested the consolidation prior high there. Now we're probably going to take a trip. Oop. Computer being a little weird there. 160, 170,000. That's probably where we're going to top. Now we could go, it's possible, we go on up here. And the last cycle will just happen to truncate. It's possible. It's not very likely. The more likely is to stop right there. Remember, the moves have been getting smaller each time. The corrections have been getting smaller. The advances here getting smaller. It's the law of big numbers. All right, that's what's coming into play here. So 160, 170. That's probably realistically where we might top out here. Then, following the trend, probably get about a 70% pullback. Maybe 75. That would be somewhere in this $40,000 area. Right there. Right back down. So I'm probably going to liquidate the majority of my holding. Hold on to my crypto I have zero cost on. Look for this pullback. Probably out to next year. Maybe late next year. And we look for the next cycle again. That high. This low. Sets us up for the next one. Rally back up. Break through, struggle, break through that 618. Halving is in 2028. Pop up here. Maybe we can get up there. Maybe we only get to 200,000. This will be the question on the next cycle. Can we maintain that 1618, or are we going to struggle to break through the 1272? Really depends. If we get the 1618 this cycle, can we maintain that next cycle? Now, you can say whatever you want to about market dynamics and supply demand, blah, 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 strategic reserves, all this stuff. 75% of the crypto, 75% of Bitcoin, 75% of all of it is in the hands of individual type people. 25% of it is out there controlled by governments. You've got Bitcoin treasuries, public companies, individuals, governments, private companies. And this is what's being held in the public right here, Bitcoin treasuries. Don't really keep track. See, there's only 3.37 million Bitcoins out of the 21 million that are being held by some sort of public entity, whether it be a company or an ETF, a government, private company. You want to know how much they hold? BitcoinTreasuries.net here. You can see the top two hodlers. MSTR and Mora. MSTR has 500,000 coins, a little better. Mora has an order of magnitude less, 48,000 Bitcoins. XXI CEP is 31,000. Riot has 19,000. Galaxy Digital, 12,000. Now, what's interesting on this site is you can see some of these companies are kind of undervalued. Like Mora here, the value of their Bitcoin is actually more than the market cap. It's kind of interesting. There's some hype going on in MicroStrategy. Now, I've kind of speculated that maybe some of these Bitcoin holding companies, MSTR, Mora, CEP, you can go on down through here, Smeller, Scientific, there's a whole variety of them, Galaxy. Maybe these are what, instead of having an altcoin season, maybe we have a super excitement in these companies right here. The percentage of Tesla's market cap represented by Bitcoin, 0.12 right there. It's crazy. So it's one of these, gotta be a little careful out there what you're jumping into, what you're chasing down, where's your expectation on Bitcoin this cycle? Are you gunning for, I think it's going to 1 million? Well, the charts don't suggest that 1 million is very reasonable. I'm just, being real with you right now. The chart's suggesting that maybe we top out it's $160,000, $180,000 per coin. 150, 170. That's kind of what I've been saying for a long time. Since back here, actually. Since back here, I've had a target right up here. Check it out. This has been my zone that I've had since before we made the last, or I guess right as we made the last bottom, I created this range. This is a 10x increase off the last bottom. This is a 20x increase off the last bottom. That typically is the zone where we top out. In between 10x and 20x, the prior low. That also fits with what I just talked about here. If we bottom at 40,000, that's a 10x. And then 800 right there would be the 20x. So that zone, the next potential rally. There's no magic here. It's just, just math. And for whatever reason, everybody likes to not pay attention to these things. Everybody's like, oh, it's, you put it up, you adjust the scales and you're like, oh, it's, it's just topping out and it's, not blah, blah. You see these like exponential rainbows and stuff like that. And so much crap on there. I haven't been wrong in a lot of years on the big picture of Bitcoin moves. Now, it's possible that we stall out right in here and that's it. It's possible. We could come up, only make it to like 120, 130, and then start down. Then we dip lower, possibly below 40, maybe into the 30s on the crypto winter. We're probably going to pull back about 75% at least. So if you're not expecting this, guess what? Hate to break it to you. So that's just a cold dose of reality. I'd love to hype up crypto, but it's just not really the thing to hype right now. We're seeing record shorts on a lot of the miners. The miners just not performing. Now I've had a long going theory here since, where were we? Somewhere back here, came up with a theory that until we get to about 115,000 to 120,000, that these miners wouldn't really come alive. Hood's not a miner. BTBT, Hive, Riot, Hut, Mora. These miners may not come alive until we're in that 115, 120,000. It has a lot to do with the cost of mining Bitcoin these days. One of my favorite places to watch the blocks, right here. There's not a ton of extra premium going through on these blocks. You can see back here, 0.158. That one's only 0.39 extra to go along with the block reward. Here's the subsidy, 3.164 Bitcoins. Total fees was only 0.039 Bitcoins. So only about $4,000 on top of the Bitcoin subsidy for mining that block. You want to see all the transactions in here? They're all here. Stuff's all public. And people talk about the hash. How do you figure out the hash? Let's see, you can't see it on the hash is right here. This number. I'll go paste it in here so you can see it. And when we talk about the difficulty of mining Bitcoin, we're talking about how many zeros got to be on the front of this right here. They adjust the number of bits that have to be 0. The more that have to be 0, the harder it is to find the block. So when they talk about adjusting difficulty every 2 weeks, that's what they're talking about. All we're doing is trying to find a hash with enough that matches the number of zeros in the front that can hash the transactions that we just had. That's all that mining is. It's not anything else except finding that hash number that hashes against all these transactions in the block that authenticates the block. A lot of people think it's more difficult than that. That's all it is. We're not finding Bitcoin. We're not anything. All the Bitcoin stays on none of the Bitcoin ever moves. All it is a ledger, a public ledger that just keeps track of where, which account has Bitcoin in it. Right now we're running ahead of schedule. So the difficulty is going to ramp up in about 4 days. That's what that says right there. If you want to know how we're coming along on the next halving, right here is the approximate next halving date. We're only 27% of the way there. So as this gets to be more like 90%, this date will get locked in a little closer. We will likely bottom out about 12 to 18 months before this date and start the new halving run. It's just the math that we've seen before. I feel like I have to say these things over and over. A lot of people don't hear me. This is a different kind of thing. I was on a roundtable last week, and one of the people was talking about the collectability of Bitcoin. It's like, yeah, it's collectible, but it also does transfer value between people. And it's not necessarily just these are collector cards. These are, some of them do have collector card type things when they've been inscribed with things, but inscribed with data, inscribed with whatever. But for the majority of this is, kind of is. What's funny is you don't necessarily own any particular Bitcoin, especially if you're on an exchange, unless you grab that particular Bitcoin from somebody that has the inscription and put it in your cold wallet. But then it's just you don't actually have the Bitcoin. It's just in the ledger. The public ledger says your Bitcoin's right here. Now, one of the unfortunate things is all the Bitcoin that Satoshi has has not been upgraded to the current encryption because he hasn't, nobody's logged into that wallet. So that wallet actually has the older version of encryption on it and could be broken and hacked. And his hundreds of millions of Bitcoins that he actually has, or hundreds of thousands of Bitcoins, I think it's 2 million Bitcoins maybe. Let's see, how big is Satoshi's wallet? And between 600 and 1.1 million, roughly, in those wallets, in that wallet. It was big. It was mined during the early years, and so that's almost 5% of the total Bitcoin. And that wallet's never been logged into since they upgraded the encryption, which means it could possibly be hacked. And somebody could get access to and move these Bitcoins. 5% of the value. So that is a risk that's sitting out there. Nobody's ever moved or transacted those Bitcoins. They've just been sitting there. Roughly 5% of the entire supply. Sitting there. It is a significant chunk. When you go look at the market cap, 5% of the $2 trillion, that's a pretty big chunk of money. Now, it's possible he, lost, burned, died the keys to the wallet. But again, the Bitcoin code has been upgraded. A few other websites here. The Bitcoin code does get updated regularly. It's on GitHub right here. April 15th was the last time version came out, version 29. Oops, I misspelled that. Bitcoin.com. If you want to participate in the network, all you do is come on here and download the software. Download the software, download the entire blockchain, a couple of gigs of data, take about a week probably for most average computers to catch up. And then you could be a participant in the Bitcoin network and have a vote. What happens? Everybody talks about what if somebody changes the code? The code's right here, public. Right? To be able to change the code, and it's not like Satoshi's sitting here changing it. This is version 29. It came out April 15th. So it's pretty up to date. Like, it gets updated. It's maintained. It's not like we're just running on the thing that came out 16 years ago. This gets regularly maintained. It's all public. Do you think it's hackable? In the current iteration, not really. If you want to see the changes, you want to see what's going on, you want to participate, you can go on here. You can download it, you can change it, you can try to get a commit code change if you wanted to change something. But you're going to have to get support. So that's kind of the crazy world of crypto right there. And that's just Bitcoin. Why do I focus on Bitcoin? Well, it's back to that market cap thing. The number one is almost 10 times bigger than the number two. At Bitcoin dominant, 63% versus 9%. The majority, when you talk about crypto, if somebody out in the public has heard of crypto, Bitcoin's likely what they've heard of. Very few people even know what this is. And as you go on further down here, less and less people know what the devil you're talking about. The majority of the value sits right here. That's the place. If you want to be conservative, this is the place to stay. Now, alternate ways to play, you can always grab something like IBIT. This basically moves 1-to-1 with Bitcoin. And this does have options that are pretty liquid. Now, it will have management costs. We'll have fees that you don't have. The expense ratio right now, 0.25%. That's per year, but it comes out daily. So over the long term, this will underperform. Now, one of the members of the roundtable last week was like, yeah, you know, it'll work just like SPY and it'll stay basically the same because you'll have dividends and stuff. They don't plan on paying dividends here. This one, over time, will diverge more and more from actual Bitcoin's price as those expense ratios stack up. The thing about the SPY, SPY, and the companies that they hold pay dividends. That gives SPY the chance to cover the gap between the market and the ETF price. You can pay out a little less dividend and still cover the expense ratio. So you can maintain that pretty close balance there. But over here, over time, this is going to diverge because there's no dividends, there's no staking rewards, there's nothing that holding the Bitcoin pays out. Now, possibly they could do some sort of money market thing with uninvested cash, but that's not the way I read the prospectus for now. So you go look at the about this fund. What do they hold? They hold Bitcoin, single asset. They only hold Bitcoin. Now, some of the other ones, if you go look at like this one that was around, that was the only one we could trade for a long time. This one holds futures. It's a derivative. They do bonds and cash and other things, and they've got some strategic ways to make some money. But again, they're paying out a crazy high dividend, and it seems like they're trying to wind this down just a little bit to me. Now they put a new button for the holdings. They got US dollars and they don't even list Bitcoins on here. They don't hold Bitcoins, they hold Bitcoin futures. If you look at the dividends here, it's like, whoo, this thing is like looking pretty bad, but you adjust it for the dividends they've been paying out, and we're actually cracking all-time highs. They've been paying out this dividend pretty aggressively. Trying to pay down the NAV. But not all two of these are, no two of these are really created equal. They've all got a little different strategy on how they hold their Bitcoin. Now, this is a 2x leverage one. Some damage was done on this pullback here, and we may or may not get to a new high on this 2x leverage. If Bitcoin's up here, this one's still struggling down here. Depends on how high we ramp the next move. You look at the holdings here. Like I said, we hold a variety of things here. We got government obligations, mutual funds, US dollars. It's kind of a variety of things to try to get that 2x leverage on Bitcoin. Now, if you're wondering, like, how do I find out what they're doing to get the leverage? All you do, go visit the homepage for the fund. Right down here. Volatility shares, go to there, look up their BitX product, click on prospectus, and read it. And if you're like, that sounds like a lot of work, ask an AI to read it for you. Break it down. Explain it to me like I'm 5. Or maybe like I'm in 8th grade. You know, see if it can break it down in simpler terms on what they're doing. Like, how do they maintain? Ask the AI, how do they maintain? Now, every one of these is different. So if you go look up BitX, that doesn't really apply to another one that you might look up, like BitU, which is another 2x leverage Bitcoin. It won't apply to BTCL, which is another 2x Bitcoin. All ETFs are managed differently. So make sure when you go look them up, you understand each one separately, the pros and cons. Maybe they're very similar. There's just some nuance in the differences, but they all got some differences. So that's where I expect crypto to go. We're getting closer to the top than we are to the bottom. Right now, if you just look at this pullback we did right here from January through April, broke above that 618. Highly likely, just watching my patterns, somewhere in the 115, 120. And that just happens to correspond with that zone I've been talking about since way back over here. All right, everybody. I'm going to go get into some other stuff. Have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel, 9:15. We'll go through the regular markets and look for what's moving. Remember, the market is quasi-open today. You have futures, and they're already pulling back a little bit off that resistance. We may see this bust on down. See where we get to by tomorrow. That may have been the top right there. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.